The fourth area that people end up finding life calling, life purposes, is in the arts and music area. And so I call it all aspects of beauty. So there are some things that make life possible, and there are some things that make life worth living. And so some people find that it's the arts, the theater, the painting, music. These are the things that they really begin to. This is actually a painting. Some of you may know this painting. I commissioned this to be done for my wife. This is the Center for Christian Study on Chancellor Street, downtown. And Malcolm Hughes is the artist. He's a local artist in this area. My wife has been saying for 10 years, I really would love a Malcolm Hughes painting. They're beautiful, loves his work. And this is of Chancellor Street after a rain. It's called the Lit House, and it's all there. In fact, the house right behind the house in the foreground is the Center for Christian Study. The house right behind it, my daughter's living in this year as part of the residence program. So this sort of has special meaning, and it's beautiful art, and it's stuff like that, and it's by a local artist and a local scene. So you may find, this is our first, we don't buy art, we buy prints and stuff like that. This is the first time we've ever bought a painting before. And it's really fun. We have it up, and it has a light on it that goes on at night. And so it acts as a nightlight in that room. And I'm not an art person. We have a few clients who are into art, and I go in their houses, and it's like an art gallery, and it's beautiful. We have a few clients who are artists, and that's even fun too, because it's like they're showing all their latest stuff. And the art world is a fun world to be in. I asked one of our clients who buys a lot of art, I said, when you go to buy a piece of art, do you pay what the artist is asking for it? I kind of want to know, do you haggle? What's the approach? And he said, oh no, I always pay more. And I had reactions just like you. It's like, what? He said, you do not understand what you get when you pay more than they're asking. If they say this is a $500 piece and you give them $600, you've bought a friend for life, and they're showing you all their other work, and they're giving you the sketches that are done, and they have something new, and they want you to see it first, and they're willing to come over to your house and have dinner with you, and they invite you over to their parties and stuff like that. He says, well, when you pay more for an artist, that just, they don't understand that at all, but they know you love them, and that's all they care about. So I was kind of interested like that. I was like, wow, I had no idea that was the world. And he said, artists don't care anything about money. They don't. Some artists do, but very few. They usually need a business manager to help them actually make money. They paint and they paint and they paint and they paint, and pretty soon they run out of money because they bought all the painting supplies and canvases and stuff like that. And then they look around and they say, I need more paint. I hate this one the most. We'll sell this one. They don't sell it's like selling a baby of theirs. They don't want to give any of the paintings away. They just want to have them put up places for people to enjoy and look at. So the art community is completely a different community, and it's amazing. So I kind of, if you're interested in art, that there's a whole other aspect and career of joy that's out there. The same thing is true with music. I was on a plane, and I sat down, and the person sitting next to me and I introduced ourselves. And he said, "You're Dave Marotta." He said, "Thank you so much for writing all those columns. I've taken all of your advice, and I retired. So now I can just play in my jazz band." And he had a jazz band, and they just burned their first CD. He said, let me get your address. I'll send you my CD, because I love jazz, and if we were talking about that, I'll send you my CD as a thank you for all the articles you've written. It was really fun. So the music world is out there as well. And the music world, again, they don't know anything about money making and finance and anything like that. Any person in here could run a band better than the band runs. Absolutely. No questions about it. Because you would actually be worried about getting gigs and where you need to be and getting paid for them. And bands are just, that's not what they're thinking about. They're thinking about the music. And it's all about that. So I would love, in my retirement at some point, I'd love to run a band and be the band manager. Just because I think it would be fun. And they're a fun group of people, and you'd be trying to figure out how to make that band successful. And just a little bit would make a band much more successful than what the band can do themselves. Be it a quartet or a rock group, it doesn't really matter. They whatever kind of music you're into, it's a great thing to be into and to do that. Theater is another one. I don't know about you, but when my wife and I got married, we tried to make sure that we took an interest in each other's interests. So rather than our marriage being the intersection of our interests, it would be the union of our interests. And that means you have to open yourself up to things that you're not always you wouldn't necessarily have done. So my wife had to learn all about Spider-Man and Star Trek. and I had to learn to love Broadway musicals. I think I got the better deal, I've decided, in that whole thing. So they just started Broadway in Charlottesville here, and we went to we've got season tickets now, and we went to the first one, and we were walking down the stairs, and my wife was like a 4-year-old at Christmas. It was like, I'm so excited. We've got Broadway in Charlottesville, and we don't even have to drive to New York for it, or Richmond, or D.C., or anything. And she's just bubbly, bouncing down the stairs. It turns out 2 of the publicists for the whole event were right in front of her on the stairs, and they stopped and they said, "That is so good to hear. We were hoping to hear comments like that." So it's like an advertising moment, and they had their cameras and stuff, and they were taking pictures. So theater's another great one to be involved in. I put this up because writing is another one. There are a lot of things for which, if you start past age 50, you are past your prime. So mathematicians peak around the late 20s, and they do their most important work. And you can go through, athletes, peak, in their early 20s. And there's a lot of things that you can't do. First-time writers peak after age 50. So if you have never written anything in your life, and you're older than 50, your first work could be a bestseller because you finally have something to say. And it's true. I mean, it's true. You get a novel from a young person who hasn't lived life and hasn't seen enough, and it's like, well, that's unrealistic. That's your whole reaction to the writing. So maybe it's writing your memoirs for your family. Maybe it's writing up family stories. I have a folder. Every time my dad writes a family story down, I cut and paste and I put it in that folder. And I have this long list of family stories, which I think is a great idea. So, or maybe you have other relatives that you just like to question or query them, or you'd like to get some of it down on tape. So maybe fiction. You've always said you were going to write a novel and you've never been able to.